must be some kind of way out of here. Say the joker to the thief. There's too much confusion. I can't get no relief.
Woo! Welcome back. Here we go.
Woo.
MicroStrategy True North episode. What episode is this? 8. Episode 8.
Let's go.
Let's go. We are back. Another day. Short week. Thank God. Let's have some fun. Here we go. Episode 8. So we've got a few things covered today. We're going to go over the recent Bitcoin buys from MicroStrategy. We are going to talk about a little bit of the catalysts that are on the horizon, a catalyst update. We're going to talk about volume a little bit, get into some information asymmetry, and yeah, we'll see where we go. We got a few topics to hit on. As always, entertaining day in the markets. We got some volatility. We got a huge Bitcoin buy from MicroStrategy, buying 55,000 Bitcoin. We'll talk about the scale and why that's important. And yeah, here we go. I think Ryan is going to join shortly. We are going to give him a graduation ceremony from graduating from Twitter, so we can walk through that. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Tim. There you go.
All right, it's passed. The information furnished to you on this live stream is for informational purposes only. The information does not and should not be considered to constitute an offer to buy, sell, or anything else. That's it. It's going to be amazing, but it's not financial advice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim.
And with that being said, yeah, Ryan forgot to put in his right of first rant refusal in his contract, so I'm cutting into the front of the line tonight. Not financial advice bears repeating because, some of y'all listen to Jimmy, but y'all don't hear Jimmy. And then they go posting a bunch of shit on X that Jimmy never said. And it's kind of pissing Jimmy off a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So what Tim said is probably the most important thing that we will say all night. And I highly recommend that everyone listen to it. And with that being said, let's talk about caution a little bit. So there was a famous Hall of Fame football coach, and they said, well, how do you win all the time? And he said, what I do is I think of the absolute worst play that I can call, and I don't do that. And it's an example of reverse thinking. All right. So instead of trying to figure out how you can be right, you imagine yourself failing, and then all of the things that would lead to that outcome, you don't do any of that stuff. So, position, your size being greater, position size too big, too much leverage, irresponsible use of margin. All of these things can get you wrecked and completely out of the game, long term. So remove every disadvantage you can, add every advantage that you can. And none of us in the True North even agree on exactly what strategy to use. Some of us own shares only. Some of us are into options. Some people will use, leveraged ETFs. Some people don't. So we couldn't even give you specific advice, even if we wanted to. So that is not going to happen. And for example, some people think that Saylor can single-handedly avoid the next bear market with infinite money glitch, right? I'm not terribly convinced on that. Even just using the metaphor refinery metaphor, every machine has friction. And right now, Saylor's greasing the gears to make sure the MicroStrategy is well lubricated. And, he's with all that ATM selling and oversubscribed bond offerings, I pretty much say that MSTR has more lube than P. Diddy's basement right about now.
He went there.
So, thousands of bottles of lube. There's so much lube.
Exactly. Lube. So MSTR is well lubed. However, that doesn't mean that we're going to be able to call the top for you. That shit's not going to happen. Yeah. It hit 2,000 a share pre-split. Nobody came out and said, everybody sell, this is the top. And then we just hit 535 or whatever the hell it was. Nobody came out and said, this is the, local top. Everybody should sell and buy back in cheaper. That's not going to happen. I like to call myself irresponsibly long, but it's just for the lulls. You know what I mean? We're allowed to have some fun while we try to make money. And that's all I got to say. Nobody's going to call the top for you. And with that, I return you to your regularly scheduled program of catalysts and bull fuel. Bull fuel. Let's fucking go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Short week,
Awesome
just
intro.
cranking it up. That was
Yeah, that was
impressive.
poetic.
The beat in his basement. I love it. Oh my God.
And Ryan missed my uninterrupted rant. He loves uninterrupted rants. You know what I'm saying?
I think he'll be on.
Hell.
He's like getting groceries or something. I don't know. He's
Right during the live stream.
Yeah.
Have to do it right now.
He's going to get groceries because he couldn't do DoorDash anymore. I don't know. So anyway,
I guess austerity measures. It's a tough day, a tough couple of days.
So just a reminder, everybody, what the reason for True North, the reason for creating and establishing True North. What is True North? True North is this impenetrable group of people that have been within the MicroStrategy trade that are incredibly interested in the MicroStrategy trade, all from different backgrounds, all from different fields. And as Neetu had outlined, everybody has different positions and different perspectives and different trades and different things that we're looking at and different things that we care about. We all have different time horizons. We all have different perspectives. So incredibly important when thinking about, how you think about this trade. So we all find it incredibly fascinating. The reason we're not doing this is on Spaces is because, we prefer to just keep it this group. We would have had these calls internally, but we're broadcasting them externally. So if you don't like what we say, I don't care. We're going to keep having these calls and having these conversations. We're just letting you into what our conversations would have been behind the scenes. Cool. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to kick it over to, actually, I'm just going to jump into some data and information. I've got a screen share here where I wanted to review the recent buying activity in November and talk about MicroStrategy's buying activity, because this is insane. This is totally nuts. Let's see if I could zoom it in a little bit more. Actually, this is probably fine. So in November, right? What are we at? We're at the 25th day of November. In November, MicroStrategy has purchased 134,480 Bitcoin, which pulls their total Bitcoin holdings to 386,700, which is absolutely astonishing. This cash flow that has been generated has come from a combination of the convertible bonds that have been offered just recently. So $3 million of this most recent cash raise has been from the convertible bonds. So we estimate about 2.4 billion from ATM issuances. And then over the prior 2 weeks, roughly 6.6 million of generated cash flow from the ATM issuances. So the reason I think this is important to outline, and the way I like to view it, is how many days of supply, of new minted supply, has MicroStrategy purchased. So just in November, these purchases, 134,480, has equated to 299 days of newly minted Bitcoin supply if 100% of the daily supply was sold to MicroStrategy. So almost a year, right? Like three quarters of a year. If you were to fast forward and think about the block reward at a point in 2028 and forward, we're talking almost 600 days, almost 2 years worth of purchases of newly minted supply within 25 days. So it's a ton of Bitcoin. Just to think about the general scale here, we are in the gold rush, as Saylor likes to say. In 2032, the remaining 1% of Bitcoin will be mined over the next 100 years. So from here to 2032, it's full steam ahead. Get as much, accumulate and acquire as much Bitcoin as you possibly can. Is very similar to, being in San Francisco in the 30s or whenever the gold rush was, and having an opportunity to accumulate all this stuff before everybody else can. So pretty big. The next thing I want to hit on is I want to pull over here to performance. which I think is really interesting. Just really looking at today in the last 5 days of looking at MicroStrategy relative to IBIT, I think is an interesting comparison because these are trading on the same time metrics, aka not trading 24/7, not trading over the weekends, so you can get a perspective of like how these are moving relative to each other. So just over the past 5 days, IBIT is plus 3.6% and MicroStrategy is plus 4.5%. Even just looking at today, performance of IBIT relative to MicroStrategy. So IBIT was down 4.3%, MicroStrategy is down 4.2%. What we've seen on the upside, right? What we've seen is that MicroStrategy has generally outperformed Bitcoin to the upside 2 times, 3 times, sometimes even more. And on the downside, there's almost downside protection. At least if you're looking day to day, it may not look like that, but relative to the IBIT performance, there's there are many days where the downside has been relatively muted. So I think that's an interesting perspective, just always comparing it to IBIT or looking at what's going on with IBIT. When I have my stock tickers, I look at them. I look at IBIT. I look at what MicroStrategy is doing. I look at how the miners are moving. And I also look at how some of the big tech plays are moving, how NVIDIA is moving, Tesla, Apple, Microsoft. Just to see, like, is there correlation and get a sense on, are there similarities to what's going on with these equities? And then I also compare DXY, which is the dollar strength. So just to also put this into perspective, I'm going to look at the MSTR tracker here. Shout out Radu, Lizard Wizard, and Cole Tenold for building this thing. This thing has developed drastically over the last month, and they're absolutely crushing it. And you even get confetti like when Saylor announces more Bitcoin buys, which is awesome. But they've added a couple cool metrics in here, which I think is really interesting, where you look at daily traded volume. So this is as of today. MicroStrategy was the 4th largest stock by trading volume. And we got Ben Workman hopping on. So MicroStrategy was the 4th largest stock by daily trading volume. So traded volume here, you can see 15.96 billion. This was before market close, and there are after hours trading that happens after that. So there were about 39 million shares that were traded today. And you look at that in comparison to some of these other stocks that are trading, and it's up there with NVIDIA, Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, right? It's effectively trading as if it were one of the top publicly traded equities in the entire stock market, which is incredibly fascinating. The other reason I bring that up is because NVIDIA today, I think, was down 4%. It was down 4%. NVIDIA was down 4%, and the amount of market cap that was lost today just on NVIDIA was 170 billion by being down 4%. So it's almost 2 times the size of MicroStrategy. NVIDIA went down almost 2 MicroStrategies today, which is kind of a crazy concept to put it in perspective. Additionally, I love this MSTR tracker and the updates that they've made here. They've got the US ranking, so you can see how MicroStrategy, I post this every day. You can see how MicroStrategy ranks relative to many of the other publicly traded equities. I think this is always funny to look at the relativities here because MicroStrategy is barely beating out Waste Management by a few slots, right? Like we're just barely beating out Trash. And then I look at these 5 companies that are ahead of MicroStrategy. I know other people have heard of these companies. I personally haven't heard of any of them. And I'm 99.9% sure that not any of them hold any Bitcoin. So we think about like financial strength, like which one of these companies is stronger financially. I think it's in my mind, it's a clear winner. And many of these companies that you see outlined here above MicroStrategy, one of the reasons that they are higher is that many of these are already included in QQQ, NASDAQ 100, or S&P 500 indices, which creates this like framework or what's the word I'm looking for? Foundation of buyers that are not selling the stock, which just kind of shrinks the shares that are trading at the margin. So I'm going to pause there. And now that we've talked a little bit about what's going on with MicroStrategy and Bitcoin buys and volume, maybe we do a little roundtable. Before we start talking and getting into other stuff, I'm going to have everybody go around the horn and give their favorite Thanksgiving dessert, because I can't stop thinking about pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie is my favorite. I'm just going to throw it out there. Fresh whipped cream, can't beat it. Hard to beat it. And I'm excited about Thanksgiving. So I'm going to pass it over to you. Neithu, we're going.
Yeah, pumpkin pie too, but it's got to be like 2x whipped cream. It's got to be twice as tall as the pumpkin pie. I actually sit next to the can, and if I run out of whipped cream, I just keep spraying more on. Sometimes on each bite, I'll just have like on the just
the ratio is important. Yeah,
exactly.
The ratio is important. Dan, what do you got?
Mine's grasshopper pie. I'm not sure exactly what's in it, but I've always had
grasshopper pie.
It's got like marshmallows and like lime.
Is that an East
and
Coast
marshmallows? Yeah, I think so. It's really good. Look it up.
Key lime.
I think it's like key lime and marshmallow, or maybe it's just marshmallows. I don't know exactly what's in it. Super good.
Wow. Okay. Tim.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie. Keep it easy. Adrian.
I'm boring. Apple pie.
Apple pie. All right, Mason, you got some exciting things?
I'm gonna have to go with Adrian. All American apple pie.
All American.
Nice.
Keep it easy. And Ben, we've got Ben on.
To be honest, I didn't know anyone even ate anything other than pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving. It's the best. Pumpkins are orange. Bitcoin's orange. Orange coin's good. Orange pie.
Orange pie. Yes, absolutely. All right. I love it. Okay. Well, I think it's probably worth talking about our estimates on Bitcoin buys. Dan and I got it. We did a live stream on Friday where we did some analysis on the Bitcoin buys that we thought Saylor was going to purchase this week. We estimated there was possibly up to $10 billion that were raised using at the market share issuance and the convertible debt that was raised last week. So we thought there was a possibility that there was a 10,000 Bitcoin purchase that was announced this week. I think there's a possibility, right? Or sorry, 100,000. Yeah, 100,000. So we got the announcement this morning, 55,000. I think there's still some game theory going on here, right? Because if we think about the QQQ rank day being Friday, November 29th, if Saylor were to come out and just kind of, announce that they've purchased 100,000 Bitcoin and basically you've got no dry powder left, there could be a situation where you see a run up in the stock or a fall of the stock going into Friday. So I think there could be a situation where we see another announcement later this week, maybe Thursday or Friday, where Saylor is potentially using the ATM Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then going full bore while everybody's at Thanksgiving, eating up Bitcoin and purchasing Bitcoin Thursday and Friday to potentially put some pressure on buy-side volume on MicroStrategy stock on Friday going into QQQ. So, Ben, I know you had some thoughts on that. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised by how many they announced today. I wasn't expecting them to announce 55,000. My target for the week had always been 85,000. That was kind of where I thought they'd be by the end of Friday. And so we'll have to see exactly what they do. I was a little surprised by how little of the ATM they used last week, given the volume, but I don't think it should be overly surprising because Tuesday and Wednesday, while they were doing the pricing of the bonds, there's very little chance that they were using the ATM because during that pricing period, the people buying the convertible bonds, once they find out what their allocation is going to be, that's the period where they start putting on their shorts over whatever the pricing period is going to be for the bonds. And I think it was a 2-day VWAP this time. But so I guess we shouldn't really be surprised. They only had 3 days, but those 3 days had a lot of volume. So even to collect 2.5 billion is still pretty good. But I was hoping for a little more. But I do think that we've still got a shot at the 85,000 for the week. If he can use if he used it today and he uses it for the next 2 days, if we start seeing Bitcoin moving over Thanksgiving and on the shortened trading day Friday, I think there's going to be a pretty good indication that Saylor's been using that ATM and really started accumulating Bitcoin. He might have to announce a small buy because if they do use the ATM this week, he's going to want that share count updated. So we'll need one more 8K on Wednesday if they find it necessary. But otherwise, I just think we're going to have to watch what the Bitcoin price action does coming into Friday, and that'll be pretty telling for us what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the information asymmetry kind of comes into play, right? Because you just don't know how much of the ATM has been used, right? Because I don't think he needs to come out and say, "Hey, I raised $10 million of ATM and I've only used 5.6." I mean, there's this information asymmetry that is continuously playing out, which is helpful to MicroStrategy holders, right? It's the fact that you don't know how much buy side power he has or where he's at is helpful for how much purchasing power he may have in the future. It's like it's a constant threat. It's a constant threat. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, yeah. So I mean, there's a possibility to be incredibly tactical here for the rest of the week. Thinking about the catalysts, right? We've got QQQ, the rank day, just to be very clear for everybody else on listening in. We've got the rank day on Friday, November 29th. We don't know anything about the rank day aside from all of the companies in the market are ranked based on market cap. From then, we've got December 13th, which is when the announcement is made on companies that are added or deleted to the QQQ index. And then on December 20th is when we find out that's when the reconstitution is made. That's when the reconstitution happens. So just as an FYI. Cool. Shall we get into Catalyst? Where's Ryan? Ryan, are you there? Who cares?
Who cares?
Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, dude, let's just like next. I need like 2 minutes. This whole thing is just too much.
Okay. All right, I'll throw you off. For a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Maybe. Geez. All right. Well, that's good. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this. All right. So we've got information asymmetry, which is wide across the entire internet, right? Like I think information asymmetry really summarizes this entire trade. Just there's so much that the people that have been really close to this trade and know what's going on, they have learned so much over the last 12, 24 months about MicroStrategy, how they're operating, what their future market looks like, how their financial strength looks, how the convertible debt market looks, all these different components, right? It's very complex. And that's what I talked about on Sunday. It's incredibly complex. You need to have a thorough understanding of a lot of different fields to get the complexity. But we're starting to see this happen already. I think my profile itself, I think I gained 6,000 followers in the last 5 days. I think the Irresponsibly Long MicroStrategy has gained like 6,000 or 7,000 followers in 5 days. We're starting to see this thing pick up steam. And I want to throw some caution out there, and Mason, you could provide some clarity around this. This is exactly what happened with r/Wall Street Bets back in 2021. There was mayhem and mania that happened very quickly. Like when the price of the stock went from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, like the number of people that were following this thing went exponential. It's not linear. This is not going to be an easy ride. It's going to be a roller coaster with a lot of people figuring this thing out really quickly. So the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people are going to pretend like they know what they're talking about and they're going to have no idea. And I think that's the reason I chose the word bewilderment. We are going to see bewilderment and hysteria like never seen before because they're not going to understand what's going on with this trade. And the people that are going to come out the loudest are the people that have power and they haven't like done all of the research. So Mason, I'll pass it over to you. You got some anecdotes that you've seen in the market, just looking at what's going on Twitter. Might be helpful to share.
Yeah. There's a few things. I don't know. This past weekend and this past week have been really interesting because I've been following irresponsibly along the community for since inception, and there's just been a lot of accounts which are putting out a lot of negative content, talking negatively about MicroStrategy, and then just a lot of general hysteria about the price and the dips. I think there's a lot of high expectations coming into this week, and that leads me to a point, which is I think you should, as a group, we should also be cautious, and viewers should be cautious of people who are on shorter time frames are going to be more anxious about the price. And I think it's important to note that this is a long-term trade for us. At least it is for me.
Yeah.
So if someone is very anxious or seems like they're in distress, I question, what is their time preference with this trade? Why are they acting in this way right now? And I think what I've seen recently is just an influx of people who maybe got in near the top and aren't familiar with the volatility that comes along with MicroStrategy, just par for the course, and are freaking out because they haven't experienced this before. But this just comes with the territory here. MicroStrategy is incredibly volatile, and that's what you're signing up for when you buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about the same scenario, right, a very similar type scenario happened back in March when the price, like when everybody figured out that MicroStrategy wasn't an ETF. It's like MicroStrategy is not an ETF. Whoa, surprise. And then it just totally outpaced the price of IBIT as the price of Bitcoin rocketed. If you purchase the top, back then in March when the price of MicroStrategy hit $1,999.99, you're up 109% today. Like since that day. So that's like, I don't know, 7 months ago, which is crazy. And that, Mason, to your point, I think there's so many things going on here with the people that are like flying into this trade. It's going to be very similar, I think, to Bitcoin in like 2016, 2017, where you just had max tourism, right? Nobody knew what was going on. They're just like, I need to buy Bitcoin apparently. And I bought Bitcoin, and then the price is going down, and I sold Bitcoin, and I didn't know what I was doing. I think it's going to be very similar here. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to buy MicroStrategy, and they've never purchased Bitcoin. They've never held Bitcoin. They're just going to know like, oh, I need to buy MicroStrategy because it's going up, which is like, it's going to be crazy. I think there's going to be so many people that try to catch on to this thing. And yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Just to echo what Mason was saying about the shorter time frames and the volatility. When I went on Saturday to the post office, I posted about this. I walked out of the post office. I'm on West 83rd Street, and the two mail carriers are in the truck in front of the post office. And I literally walked backwards. I said, were you guys just talking about MicroStrategy? They're like, yeah, it's so crazy. It went up so much, so it must be over. And I talked to him for a few minutes, and then at the end, and I should have asked him just, I don't know if I could pick up a theme over time, but I wish I would have asked him where they discovered MicroStrategy, heard about it, because again, their sentiment was, wow, it went up so much and it's over. And I just, as I'm walking away, I said, I think it's just beginning.
Yeah. This is the biggest story in corporate finance. This is going to be the most hated rally of all time, because people are going to be like, why? It doesn't make sense. Why is it trading at 6 times MNAV? Why is it trading at 10 times MNAV? And it's like, because it's an operating company, and operating companies are forward looking, right? Like it could be as simple as that. But people are going to absolutely hate this, and because they just missed it. And I think we're kind of at, in my opinion, peak retail here. It was like retail, while important, in my opinion, it almost doesn't matter anymore because the ETFs are here. And as the price of MicroStrategy rises because of the underlying Bitcoin holdings, I mean, even if they're not included in QQQ, even if they're not included in the SP 500, the relative share in the market cap weighted index ETFs that they're already included in is going to shoot them higher. It's like I think Ben used the analogy. It's like when you have those Hot Wheels cars, you know, you played with when you're younger, and they've got the little spinny things where the Hot Wheel goes through it and it like zooms it faster. It's like that's kind of what the ETFs are. They're kind of like little zoomers that like make it pick up more speed and kind of like gap up kind of thing. So that's kind of how I think about it and view it, which is really interesting.
But you know, that time frame thing is really important, because if you think about Bitcoin, like nobody who's held Bitcoin for 5 years has ever lost money.
Yeah, 4-year compound annual growth rate is always positive, and the worst performing 4-year compound annual growth rate is like 26.4%.
Yeah, and so the same thing kind of happened in March. Like if you bought the top in March, you know, long calls or whatever, you lost money if those expired 7 months or less. But you didn't if you went 9 months, a year. Like you're still in the game. But if people are just YOLOing into weeklies at the top, there's no time to be right. You know,
Yeah.
you need time to be right on this thing.
Yeah. And that's why options are inherently riskier, right? Options, you can lose 100%. If you're selling options, you can lose infinite. Options are incredibly risky. And that, you know, so many people have asked, like, can you do an options course? No, absolutely not. Like, I'll leave that to Neithu. He could run his selling call options course. But no, it's so true. Like you zooming out and thinking about, like, why do you hold this? Well, I hold this because I understand Bitcoin and I like Bitcoin, and this is the most powerful financial company, and I've got a finance brain, and this is where the industry is going. Like the industry is going digital. Digital capital is the future. Yeah,
So
that's crazy.
and also, I think the thing that with this is kind of like what you touched on, Jeff, and also what Mason has touched on. There are a lot of people with large followings that are grifters, in my opinion, that are pushing narratives because it drives engagement. And I think it's legitimately like confusing people on Twitter because they're repeating the same talking points that certain people with certain PhDs from certain colleges just love to drop every 5 seconds in conversations, but they're, you know, just pushing a narrative because it serves their needs and it serves what they're trying to do, versus actually trying to educate the population that's listening in, right? And that's part of the reason why we are here. We want to make sure that the right information gets out, and I think that our voices are going to have to get equally loud as the voices of the grifters, right? So before we allow ourselves to be hijacked, and by we I mean everyone in the chat, everyone here, everyone in the community, be hijacked by these large follower accounts that, quite frankly, have just come out of fucking nowhere. I didn't see them last cycle. I didn't see them the cycle before that or the cycle before that. Quite frankly, I don't know who the fuck they are. I don't know who the fuck Wayne is. I don't know these people. So we just need to really be mindful of who we put our faith in. That's the first thing. The other thing I'll say is some people need to relax. If we don't adjust for the split, we're over $4,000 right now. We were over 2, and higher is where we're going, right? So yeah, we've had a little pullback, but we went up to 500. You know what I mean? So like, relax, just relax. The second thing, I'm going to try to say this as delicately as possible because it's going to seem kind of harsh. Stop fucking with the leverage plays. If you're going to buy them, take 2 days, get in and get out. I'm seeing too many people saying I'm 100% this, I'm 100% that with MSTU and MSTX. And it's like you're a bunch of fucking Muppets and you're going to get lit up. And the first thing you're going to do is DM one of us wondering what the hell happened. You do not hold those plays unless you know what you're doing, unless you've been watching the price for like a good year, unless you've been watching how they trend, because they're only 2 months old. I think is the oldest one at MSTX, right? So there's not a lot of price data. There's not a lot of trending data. There's not a lot of historical data to understand how these things are going to operate. And you're putting your entire stack in them, or it's just you're just asking for trouble. So just don't do it. NFA, but don't do it.
Adrian, can you elaborate more on that? Because I think it's really a really important point people need to hear. Like why do you say that?
So the leverage ETF plays, I've used them, right? But here's where I'm a little bit different. And I'm just going to throw numbers out there. If you go into a leverage play like that on an upswing that MicroStrategy clearly was in, you have to do two things. One, you have to correctly identify that you are in an upswing and you're not just in a stock-driven or natural good green day for MicroStrategy, right? Let's say it's Tuesday, it's Wednesday, MicroStrategy has a good day, then by Thursday and Friday is red again, right? You don't know what's going to happen in markets. But we had a few things that were running to our advantage, right? We had Trump getting into the White House. That's good for Bitcoin. That was going to be good for MicroStrategy. So we were fairly confident, everyone in the community, that we were on an upswing. Okay, so you got that done for you, right? Now, here's the thing. Before I went into this play, like many of us here, we've been watching the MicroStrategy price action for the better part of a year to 2 years. So we aren't the average investor in the sense that we're not tourists here, right? We've been pretty enmeshed in the price activity. So we have a level of confidence that others would not have. The other piece of the puzzle is these are relatively new. I think MSTX is 2 months, MSTU is 1 month and a half, or maybe I have that backwards. I'm not sure. So unless you've done research on how they balance and how they do and how these ETFs operate, you're kind of asking for trouble. You're taking a dart, you're flinging it at a board, hoping to hit bullseye, right? So with that working against you and with the uptrend working for you, the only way you can play them, I don't care how smart you are, and this is just my opinion, you get in, you get out, right? If you got a 10% move, you take that and you run. These are not plays that you say, oh, I got 10%, maybe I can get 30, right? You don't do that. You identify your level of risk. You identify how much capital you want to put into it. You put it in. Once you get your move, you get out. So I put in a very sizable chunk that I was able to get a very, very nice return on. But that's because we were in a very, very clear uptrend. We'd been bright green. I decided to take a flyer on it. But again, my level of risk tolerance is different than others. That all being said, if you are someone, and this is not me saying this to be insulting, this is if you're someone that's playing around with $500, $1,000, $2,000, something like that, the level of risk you're going to take for that kind of capital is just not worth it. Just put into MicroStrategy, wash your hands, and come back in a few months. You'd be far better off for it. As a matter of fact, if you had done that in July, you'd be up 2x right now, right? But you also need to understand that you have to know where you're at. You're not going to go from 2,000 to 200,000. That's just not going to happen, right? And even in Bitcoin, that happened over the course of several years, right? In NVIDIA, that happened over the course of several years. I think there's so many people looking for a home run, and you're going to end up getting struck out, and it's going to be very, very nasty. And the frustration I have is I'm trying to show both sides of the coin. So I put out these charts with the leverage plays, and people are saying, well, see, if for the last month, you would have gotten twice as much if you had been in leverage plays. I'm like, yes, because we were in an uptrend. What's happened in the last 2 days? My entire thread, never again with MSTU, never again with MSTX. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. To which I'm just like, I fucking told you. And if you're not going to actually read what I'm putting out, I don't want to see all of the bad news when you get it, right? So just do some basic analysis, do some price projections. You take a dollar amount, you go into Excel, and you project it out into the future as to what -5 days are going to look like and what +10 days are going to look like. And then on the downside, just because there's always more downside risk, there's slippage, and there's also just the risk of how they rebalance. There's not going to be an exact 2x. You're going to lose in that. And the way you play for that is with the slippage. You're always going to pay more on the downside than you gain on the upside. So, and if someone tells me, well, how do I do that? My first response to them is going to be like, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead, Mason.
No, I just wanted to say I think that's the key part there that a lot of people don't understand is that slippage aspect. And yeah, they're playing with stuff that they fundamentally don't understand. Yeah.
Yes. So the slippage, right? Maybe I'll try to draw it on my screen. So if you go up 2x, or if you go up, let's just say you go up 10% and then you go down 10%. Basically, if you go up 20% and down 20%, you're starting at a lower spot than you originally started at. So that's the slippage. So you go up and down 20%. While it seems like it's 20%, the slippage is that you're actually double X down, and your new starting spot is lower. So it's continuously like lower and lower and lower. So you can see the slippage if you go to other leveraged ETFs like the VIX or QQQ. What's that?
BitX.
Yeah, but you can look at longer leveraged plays over the leveraged ETFs that have longer horizons, so you can look at that slippage. You can literally see it over time. So I think TQQQ or SQQQ, one of the two, it's been around for years, so you can see the literal slippage, even though QQQ has gone up. So helpful to view that, so you understand the play.
Volatility decay. Look into it, people.
Volatility decay.
Or a simple way to look at it too is let's use simple numbers. Let's start off with, I don't know, 2. So you start off with $2, right? And if let's say that MicroStrategy goes down by 50%, then the 2x play is going to go down by 100%, right? So you start up with 2. Now you have $1.50 and you have $1. If MicroStrategy then goes up by 10%, you have $1.65, right? But if this goes up by 20 cents, you have $1.20. And I think that's the simplest way to look at it. Just take small amounts. Did I say that right? I think I said it right. So it's you're going to lose on the downside more than you gain on the upside. And the catch with it is that just have a dollar amount in your mind and get it and get out. Or better yet, just don't do it unless you actually understand that and unless you have the capital to risk.
Right. One other item I wanted to hit on, and Mason, this is kind of what you originally started with, is that there are many profiles that are coming out that are talking about MicroStrategy, and they've never posted anything, or they've got 6 posts in their history, and they're following 20 people, or they're following 200 people and they've got 20 followers. And I've seen just in this last week dozens of them. And dozens of them that are talking trash about MicroStrategy. We're going to see more of that. And this happened with Wall Street Bets as well. There was infiltration of bots, hedge funds, fake profiles, and people that were setting things up. Just like we see bots on Twitter right now. I mean, there will be bots that will be deployed to be FUD for MicroStrategy for anybody that's got a short position. I'm sure that happens in the stock environment right now, where there are bots that are deployed or profiles that are paid to put out FUD articles and FUD information, which is just something to be aware of. If you see something stupid where you're like, wow, that person's stupid, and they're posting something that doesn't make any sense, or it has no like thought behind it, or this is something we've like 900 people have already like debunked, it's probably because it's like a bot profile, and we're going to see a lot more of these.
Or that too.
Or I was going to say that.
PhD or shit. They've been shitcoiners, and they're just unfortunately shitcoining because they think there's going to be a heavy alt season. But I think personally, MicroStrategy is probably going to capture a fair amount of like past season's altcoinery, shitcoinery.
About 6 months, and people are pissed with me for it.
Yeah, I mean, sure, like altcoins will definitely have their time, but I think the general scale will be different. I think Bitcoin is capturing just by viewing dominance, Bitcoin dominance. It is capturing a larger portion of the market. Oh, hey, look, Ryan's in the comments. There he is.
That's really good.
He's in there.
Well, and some of these people that are entering the space, they're not necessarily going to mean harm, but like there's one TradFi guy that he kind of criticized people like myself, I suppose, that talked about collecting a certain amount of premium. Like he felt like I was being a little over optimistic about how much premium could be collected. And for me, it's just like, well, dude, you haven't been trading MicroStrategy for 2 straight years and seeing the premiums go up and down, but still better than every single other stock in the market. And this guy posted something the other day that was like, holy crap, did you know that you can get 1% premium on the weekly call, selling a put, selling a put for next week at the 325 strike? And he's like, you can get 1%. And I'm like, and it's so low risk, but that was the thing that would impressed him. It's like, holy crap, I can take this super, super, super high confidence bet and collect this little tiny 1%. And that was just like brought him to his knees kind of thing. And they're slowly kind of figuring it out, but they can only still see it from their thing, like the thing that they've been doing for 30 years.
Their purview.
They can pigeonhole MicroStrategy into this one thing, and they can see it from one vantage point. And they're starting to slowly get it, but even when they enter the space, meaning well, they're still not getting the whole picture.
Yeah, Neetu, I want you to explain a little bit what you explained to me a little bit earlier about earlier today about MicroStrategy. You held Bitcoin. You're like, okay, Bitcoin's great, and then you started to see the opportunity with MicroStrategy to earn a yield by running these covered call strategies. And I think a majority of the market really doesn't understand that yet. How powerful and how much yield you can earn on some of these call option strategies is astounding. The option premium that you're getting on some of these call options to sell covered calls is greater than what you would get on like any large Mag 7, like any other stock in the market. It's like the most valuable. Go ahead. I'll let you take it. You've got a good explanation.
Yeah. So, since they're manufacturing volatility, it's just kind of crazy. Like, if you are willing to sacrifice your upside and limit it. And before I kind of saw Quant Bros 1, that was my whole game, is just having something that was a valuable asset, any particular, valuable stock that you just don't want it to go down, right? It has to not suck. And then you can sell, a covered call against it. You can sell a cash secured put. And the premiums in MicroStrategy were just so insane that it was like, 1% a week is just destroying the S&P 500 and just collecting, yield. And that works just for so long, as long as you, as long as you have enough shares to let some get called away. Like maybe you're only doing that to a portion, but if you're willing to just give up complete, unlimited upside, the amount of premiums that can be collected on this stock just far outweighs in any of the other stocks in the market.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's a person making fun of this on the comments. Here, I'll post it. Spot on to talk about covered calls the day premiums dump 20 to 50%. Well, it's
oh no, they do. So yeah, and that's the thing is like, so the option prices determine the implied vol. So, you're going to be able to get 1% sometimes. You're going to be able to get 5% sometimes. I think when it was ripping to 500 plus, it was like 5%. You could sell a cash secured put, and they'd pay you like 5% of the spot price.
I think insane. At the money. I think at the money call was over. At the money call for 1 week was over 10%.
10%, yeah.
Wow.
So that's
that week.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So if you earn 10% a week for 50 weeks, that's an insane profit. But it still isn't going to be as much as the long call would be over that 52-week period. Most likely, if the price is running, and the price would probably just run away from you anyway. Like if you only had 100 shares, you can only do that for a few weeks before you can't afford it anymore.
Yeah, you run out of shares.
But yeah, that's going to fluctuate. So, you can get 10% like that maybe once or twice a year, but you can't just count on that forever. But even when it drops down to 1% here, a couple percent there, it still just kills Apple. Like there's no volatility in Apple. When I go and look at their covered call strategy, I'm like, why would I even bother? And even the IBIT options that came out, I reviewed those the first day they came out, and I was like, this is bullish for MicroStrategy because the options premiums were terrible. there's no covered call seller on the planet that's going to get excited about IBIT if compared side by side to MicroStrategy. So nobody's pulling their options trading out of MSTR because IBIT has options. I mean, there might be a few people, but the premium is just not interesting over there.
Yeah. And it's going to get crazier. More people are going as the price of the underlying Bitcoin rises, and the market cap gets larger. I mean, it's going to get even bigger, even if there's another stock split. I don't think many people understand how valuable that is. It's a complex trade that a very small portion of the market uses. Probably many people, even like Ryan, would rather use like a yielding product and just run it themselves. But if you see a big green day like we did last Wednesday, and you see the price run to 535, or you're like, wow, we're up like 20% this week. Like, holy crap. I might sell some covered calls because you're saying, oh, the premium's even higher. And for a strike that I'd be okay potentially letting go of some shares with. So, yeah.
And you've already captured some of the upside on the green day.
Right.
So you could miss out on some additional upside. There's no reason why it can't go up another 20% the next week.
Right.
However, if you already caught 20%, at least you're not shooting yourself in the foot, missing that. But that's what I used to do. I mean, I used to just sell covered calls mechanically. I didn't care if the price was up, down, or sideways. And then March happened and I was like, oh, holy shit, my account would be up 30% more if I hadn't sold covered calls when it ripped to 1,700, pre-split numbers that week. I had 100 shares get called away, I think at 1,400 when it went to 1,700. So, I missed out on a big move. But if you're strategic, like you said, on a green day, those are the perfect opportunities to capitalize on something like that. And
you'll feel them. And you'll feel them.
Yeah.
Right. I know Climb the Ladder on Twitter. He was a big call seller on last Wednesday. He was like, I locked it in. He's like, I think he locked in like $6 million, and he sold covered calls. He's like, I'm locked in. And talk about a great story. I mean, he started with like 200 grand and he just locked in $6 million by selling a couple covered calls. And if they don't get hit, then he keeps his shares, and he made like a killing on generating some premium. So it's just, for people that are following this stuff really closely, if you got your finger on the pulse and you got a huge pile of shares, like that could be worth, running some analysis on.
And especially if you want to exit that position at that price anyway, then you're not missing out on upside because that was the exit price that you were going to take anyway. So then at that point, it's just adding a little bit of gravy to your trade.
Right. I agree with Ben's comment here. Neither, you're going to be the most followed account once people realize like how valuable this is. There's a lot going on the options yielding strategies. If you're interested, and somebody posted this as well, let me see if I can go into the MSTR den. There you go. Climb the Ladder is a boss. Come to the den.
He is.
The MSTR den is a Discord channel. There is an options channel within the Discord channel. So you can, people are talking about strategies and, things that they're doing on the options channel, which is interesting. There's a few different channels where you can just shoot the shit and talk with people, and it's grooving. Like there are people out there all the time, all day, every day. So I recommend checking that out.
Yeah, check him out for sure. I co-sign that. He's got good stuff.
Cool. Tim, you had a point a little bit earlier. You raised your hand.
Oh, yeah. Not to go backwards, but just to touch on the levered ETFs, and Adrian was making a lot of great points. I just have, I don't know if it's 2, 3, or 4 things. One, it's 2x levered long daily. So if MSTR, and I don't know if some people that they're like, all right, I understand Bitcoin, and then I went into altcoins, or they're trying to go out the risk curve. And now maybe they're back to Bitcoin, and at a certain point they understand MicroStrategy, and they say, okay, because this is kind of what I initially did. People might think, okay, I understand MicroStrategy, but I want more leverage. So I'm going to go into these leverage long ETFs, but I don't have any experience with options. So I'm not going to buy options and go there yet, but I'm going to get into this levered ETF. Well, if MicroStrategy goes up by 20% in one day, and you're up 40% in one day, and this is probably never going to happen, but it goes up just mathematically, it compounds upon itself. You go up 20%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, and you like double your money. You're going to be, what we were saying earlier, in the lobby of the clinic, and it's not going to be great. But think about it in the reverse. You're down 20% a day, compounded 5 days in a row. That's brutal. And please read the prospectus. It says that it targets 2x daily.
Keyword target.
And not to, you can pick numbers from any time frame, but there was a time today when one of the leverage ETFs, MicroStrategy, was down 4%, let's say, and that leverage ETF was down 12%.
I posted about that. Yep.
Wow.
And you need to read the prospectus, not because we love reading dry documents, but because it's targeting. So legally, right, you can bring a suit against them and it's going to get thrown out because they're targeting 2x daily. And I'm not like a finance expert that knows exactly how these things work entirely, but just as a top line, it's 2x leverage daily.
Yeah, the worst spread was. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, they could be targeting 2, but you're only getting 1.9 up, and you might be getting 2.1 down.
Yes, the worst spread today was MicroStrategy was down 4.19%, and I think MSTU was down 13.98 at the worst point. So, again, this is why I tell people the devil's in the details. I tried to tell them all last week. They didn't listen, but I fucking told you. So.
Awesome. Okay. Well, maybe we switch gears a little bit. Just want to end the stream here shortly, but I did want to talk about Tesla and QQQ. Ryan's going to hate this because Ryan would say the trade is over. Tesla is over. And then I'm going to share my screen here and jump in and look at this. So this is the market cap of Tesla back in 2013. And Tesla was added to QQQ on July 15th, 2013. I think it was announced on July 10th, maybe a little bit earlier than that. So if you look at this market cap here over time, so there was a big front run of Tesla getting added to QQQ. You could see this happening over time, and then you come to about July when they're announced to be added to QQQ. They're a $14.5 billion market cap, and they continue to go up to $23 billion market cap within a couple of months. And so you can see the compound pressure on the stock going into QQQ. I suspect this is similar to something we may see with MicroStrategy. I mean, there's so many factors that go into this, right? Understanding the trade, understanding the players in the game. I come back to the concept of opportunity cost a lot, and thinking about opportunity cost of capital and what's on the horizon. Back in 2013 with Tesla, they had sold some cars, but they were incredibly unprofitable, and so you didn't necessarily know what the path to profitability would be at some point in the future. So this was front run getting into QQQ, but I suspect there was probably some selling of the front running into the passive buy side volume for QQQ. But many people wanted to hold Tesla for a long time because they loved Elon Musk. And where this is different for MicroStrategy, but I think it's helpful comparison in looking at this stock, is that the opportunity cost of capital with MicroStrategy is much different. Where you think about future catalyst and future horizon for MicroStrategy, you're talking FASB, fair value accounting. You're talking potential S&P 500. You're talking strategic Bitcoin reserve and significant catalysts in all of 2025. And maybe we go to those. So if you look at the list of catalysts, we've got QQQ, obviously, over the next month and a half. We've got Christmas and New Year's happening, we've got this huge historic open interest expiration, and this may be event, this may not be an event, but there's significant options that are really deep in the money. I think there's going to be a large portion of folks that are going to be exercising those positions, myself included. And then, continuous Fed meetings, which we think there's likely to be continued interest rate reductions over time. We've got the Q4 earnings report. We've got quarterly rebalance from MSCI. We've got Russell Index Rank Day. So each year, the Russell indices, which is I think top 10 largest indices in the world, MicroStrategy will get re-ranked in those indices as well. So likely higher. MSTR World, FASB Fair Value Accounting, which we think will probably be at some point in May. And there's just so many bullish catalysts just for MicroStrategy on the horizon, not even considering the bullish catalysts on the horizon for Bitcoin with Bitcoin MENA, which is coming up next month. I think it's December 10th or 12th, something like that. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, new administration, Red Wave, all of the Cantor Fitzgerald being in, big positions in the political sphere. So there's a lot of positive catalysts on the horizon for both Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, which in my opinion, again, not financial advice, it constitutes, there's no better opportunity cost of capital. So when I have days like this where the stock goes down or the price of Bitcoin goes down, I don't even care. Like I'm so long, I'm so long on this trade. I plan to hold it forever. So, just want to kind of close on that, and maybe we'll pass it around, do final thoughts. And then we'll let everybody go. A short week. We are not going to do an episode on Wednesday because everybody's going to be out traveling with family. Make sure to share your gains, all that stuff. I think there's a lot of social energy around Bitcoin. I think there's going to be a lot of buzz over the next couple of days. And I think Saylor potentially has some capital up his sleeve to buy more Bitcoin over the next week. So Neithu, I'm going to pass it over to you. Final comments for the week.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
My fucking job.
Yes. Also, congratulations to Neithu. He quit his job. Amazing. That is the power of Bitcoin and Bitcoin equities. Great work. Over to you, Dan. Nope, he's not there he is.
This week shows that everyone could be wrong. I was super wrong. I was super wrong about this week. So take everything with a grain of salt. So far,
with our favorite grain of salt. I don't think you're wrong. Still, I think there's still a possibility that there's significantly more Bitcoin that's purchased this week. The week's not over, so yeah,
I think we'll see. Right. Yeah,
over to you, right. Tim.
But I do want to take it as we were just very bullish, and I do think there is.
We were.
There's always
we were very bullish.
Yeah, so
we were very bullish. Oh darn! They only bought 55,000 Bitcoin. It's like what? That's crazy. Tim, over to you.
Yeah, and it's only Monday. So, some of these things, I don't know. I was taking a walk today, and I thought one of the posts I did that got a certain amount of commentary was I think MicroStrategy is going to totally go through the $21 billion ATM by this Wednesday. Well, the gotcha that I didn't even really think of, and it popped in my head today, it's unless they announce it somewhere on a form, it's kind of unknowable.
You don't know. You can't know.
No. Everyone's excited, Tim, you're right, you're wrong, this, that. No one's even going to know.
Right. No one will know.
And correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, that's the asymmetric information. That's what makes this trade so incredible, because you're trading on some future information, which I think is surprising on how the price of the stock moved today. Because 55,000 Bitcoin were announced that were purchased. I think Ben mentioned that kind of signals that MicroStrategy's off the buy. There's a little bit less buy pressure. So yeah, it's tricky. There's so much asymmetric information, but he's buying, and he's buying all the time. You just don't know how much. So interesting point.
So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
And Wednesday. It's crazy.
And even Friday, sorry, Dan, and even Friday, okay, well, if something happens by the end of day Friday, what, we're off by a couple days?
Yeah.
or it's still going to be this week. And I guess, Jeff, to your point about the social energy, I went out to my favorite place, Corner Bistro here in the West Village, for a cheeseburger tonight. I sat down. There was one bar stool available. I said to the lady there, I said, "Can I sit here? I'll be quiet as a church mouse." And she said, "No, you can talk." So we get to talking, and I mentioned the word Bitcoin. She's like, "I've been hearing a lot about Bitcoin recently. Some people say it's amazing. Some people say it's a bunch of BS." I'm like, "Really?" And like the bartender comes over, "Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about Bitcoin recently too." So like if you just throw it out there, and not to have it part of every conversation, but yeah, no, the lady was like, "I'm pretty sure one of my sons, like, in his dad's apartment in Brooklyn, the basement's full of monitors and wires. I think Bitcoin." I mean, it's amazing what people will say if you just mention it just like briefly.
It's pretty hard to not talk about it, honestly. I mean, it's just so like this whole thing is so crazy. Like I just it's so easy to bring it up, or you start seeing like fiat everywhere. You're like, oh my God, that's so fiat. Like you just walk down the street and you see like problems with the fiat system, or you see people complaining about it on Instagram, or, and it's just like, oh, there's so many problems. And it's like, yeah, the money's broken. Like it's strange. Anyway, great commentary, Tim. I appreciate the anecdotes, and somebody even shouted out Corner Bistro on you there too. So
Yeah.
It's great. Over to you, Adrian.
Yeah, I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. I will be eating way too much, and I will not be working. I will hopefully not be on Twitter too much, and if I am, cool. But I think that we are just in the beginning here. Don't get shaken up by this price action today. I think this is all good for the upward momentum. Don't lose sight of the investment thesis. If you're still a believer, stay in. If you're not, get out. And because I've just been getting a lot of messages today, like a lot of messages with people that are just wigging out. And it's just like, dude, just last week,
Yeah,
it was a giant green veiny dildo into the sky. All right. Like now we have one red day and you're tweaking, or 2 red days and you're tweaking. It's like, relax, just relax. Yeah. But we're fine. I think we're just at the beginning here. I think all of us are up for a great 2025, maybe even 2026. So don't lose faith. And when you are getting stressed out, step away from your screen, go eat some food, and just spend some time with family. That's all I can say.
The dead guy portfolio always wins. The dead guy portfolio always wins. The best performing portfolios in history are dead people portfolios. Keep that in mind. Like try to pull out. Just the last 5 days, MicroStrategy's up 4.85% in the last 5 days. Any other stock, you'd be like, hell yeah. In the last month, it's up 71%. In the last 6 months, it's up 139%. Year to date, it's up 538%. In the last year, it's up 675%. Zoom out. Zoom out. Okay, last, over to you, Mason.
I just have to say, tell those you love about Bitcoin. Spread the word. I think it's important to recognize that money isn't everything. Money allows us to spend more time with the people we love, doing things that we love, and that's what this is all about. I think sometimes this trade in Bitcoin MicroStrategy could be all-consuming, and I think this is a really good week to step back, have some reflection, and remember what's important. Remember why you're investing this much time and energy towards this.
That's great advice. Also worth, if you haven't done a on-chain Bitcoin transaction, do it. Do an on-chain Bitcoin transaction. Move Bitcoin into cold storage. Try it out. Like get a cold wallet, figure it out, understand, do some research, think about it. Everybody, if you're interested in the MicroStrategy trade, you should learn about how Bitcoin works. And you should run a cold storage transaction, like moving Bitcoin from in exchange over to a hardware wallet or whatever that may be, just so you understand the mechanics behind it. Awesome. That's all I've got. Thank you everybody for your time. As Mason said, and as everybody said here, let's take some time, enjoy the time off. There's you've got 3 days where the market is closed. At least the stock market is closed. Bitcoin is running all the time. So, take a break, go relax, spend some time with family, and come back to the things that are important to you in your life, because those are what's left at the end of the day, right? Like everybody around you is what's left at the end of the day. So have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. It's a great week. Carry on. See ya.